All right, guys, welcome back to the table. And on the table, you see kind of a semi-complete MR920 combat. We'll get into this in a second, but I do want to show you everything this thing comes with. It doesn't come with a Glock mag, but I'm just showing you. So what this comes with are two magazines. Mine are 10 rounders because, well, we suck in New York. It comes with a little package of a couple of different back straps and a little pin tool, which is pretty cool. It does come with, originally, it comes with a slide plate. And just so you're aware, if you see this thing moving around, it's because I don't have it locked in completely. For the sake of the video, I just basically threw it on there to let you guys see and kind of explain how this thing fits into the slide and just kind of, I guess, brag about how cool this friggin' thing is. I would say to you, if you are a Glock person, you owe yourself to spend the money and buy this gun. It is worth it, at least from my initial impression, from what I've seen out of the box. But does that mean everything is good? No, of course not, because there's nothing that I consider perfect in the gun world, so to speak. So what it also comes with is, aside from your regular cover plate here on your slide, it's going to come with three different spacers. Now, these spacers are all sized differently. They're all numbered, and you get a nice instruction manual that explains it considerably. What you do is you take the correct spacer for your correct footprint of optic, in this case, a Holosun 507, and you basically take your little spacer, and you guys can see it right there. You pop it in there, and then you mount your optic right to the slide. Now, some people say, well, how's it going to stay on there? Or how are you going to get a good grip or a good hold to it? The interesting thing is that when you look at these screws, this is the medium-sized screw that I had to throw in there. This is the small one. That's the large one, and this is the medium one. And if you notice, look how long this screw is. This thing is going to go all the way through pretty much to the bottom of the slide, and it's going to hold it there in place. It's going to lock down really well, so you don't necessarily have to worry about this thing moving. Again, use some Loctite, and I can't see this thing flying off at all because there's less moving pieces. There's no slide plate, and as a result, you just get a really solid feel with your optic. Now, one of the things that I always notice about the Holosuns is that they do sit pretty high, especially on guns that have the actual required accessory piece or the mounting rail, or mounting piece, I should say. And when you have to put it on there, obviously it's going to lift everything up because you have that space or that gap that has to be made up. In this case, what they did on this type of model is they actually put, I guess you could say, screw holes that go all the way down, so there is no need for a mounting plate, which is pretty sweet when you think about it, because now, instead of your optic sitting about a half an inch higher, it's sitting that much lower into the slide. So as you can see, it's sitting like this thing was cut specifically for this optic, and it's just brilliant in my opinion. Now, one of the other features because of that is you're actually going to get co-witness on this gun. One of the things that I've noticed on some of the other guns that I've owned that have the ability to mount an optic on there is that you can't get co-witness for the simple reason that your sights, even though they're higher sights, your optic is still sitting higher, and you can't necessarily get that co-witnessing. So some of the other things that it came with this Magwell, and I've never been a Magwell guy, but now that I actually have one, I've got to say, now I know why so many people like it. It is super easy to get those magazines in now. It just makes it like lightning fast. So if you're into Magwells or not, I suggest you get one because it does make an improvement on getting those reloads in there faster. The trigger is aluminum, so that's nice. It does have a trigger safety, as you guys can see. And let me see if that goes in all the way. And you guys can see that it does recess all the way in, which is always, in my opinion, very good for a trigger, especially if you're putting several hundred rounds at once. You don't necessarily get that feeling of that thing sticking out on you. The magazine release is plastic. It's polymer, but it is in a really, really nice spot. One of the things that I do like about this grip versus, let's say, a Glock is the adjustability of the grip. So it does come with two different pieces. This one here is their neutral grip, which actually follows more in line with an M&P 2.0 M&P series. And just kind of putting them on top of each other really quick, you can see, hopefully, you can see that the angle of the grip is just about the same now. Now, you do have the option of putting on a different backstrap, which I believe is, I think it's the low feeling backstrap. So there's a hump that comes back here, which actually resembles a lot like a basic Glock. So if you're into the Glock angle, that's the one you would use. It also comes with a high feeling grip module or grip adapter in the back, and that's more of a 1911-ish angle, and it actually makes the grip a little bit thinner. I tried that one, didn't like it. I like the Glock a little bit better than that, but the neutral angle felt best to me, and that's why I stuck with it. So again, looking at the trigger, and the gun is unloaded, folks. So the trigger is probably where I'm going to first say I'm not not feeling it, so to speak. Now, is it a terrible trigger? No, it's not a terrible trigger. I would say it is above average as a trigger. It is better than a stock Glock trigger, and most guns for that matter. But is it perfect? Is it as good as, let's say, an aftermarket Apex? No, I don't think so. But one of the things that I've been noticing in some other videos that people have this gun and have shot several hundred rounds is what they're saying is that the trigger may feel like that initially, but again, once it starts to break in after about 100 to 200 rounds, the trigger actually feels a lot smoother. It's a lot crisper. And I'm looking forward to that because I want to see if that's true. And I hope it is. Not saying the trigger's horrible. It's just not necessarily as smooth as I thought it would be. So here you've got your take up. And again, that's about it right there, but you're still not at the wall. You just get a little bit more motion right there and you can see it, and then it breaks. So I just want to show that to you again. So you kind of line it up, you got your shot going, and then it breaks. There's just a slight movement after that initial feel of a wall. And then with the reset is pretty solid right there. It's a pretty short reset. One of the things that I didn't like about the trigger feel itself is with the reset, because when it resets, you feel a little bit of a grinding action up here in the trigger shoe. So I think it's just, maybe some metal contact, whatever it might be. And honestly, I think after a couple hundred rounds, it's going to smooth out, and that's when it's going to feel even better. So would I give this trigger the best of the year? No, but would I give it the worst? Absolutely not. This is definitely above average. Still something that I think is better and something that you should look at, especially if you're into Glocks, because this trigger does resemble a Glock on the reset, but the feel of the trigger is a little bit smoother, a little less mushy. And as time goes on, I have a feeling this is going to work itself out just the way it needs to be. Now, in regards to, let's see what else. In regards to the front of the slide, again, this is just a combat model, so you don't see the fancy serrations on top. You also don't have the lightning cuts or the windows on the side. That was about a $50 difference, and I had basically a price limit where I was at. So I felt like this would be a good investment, and I didn't really care about the slide cuts or the serrations on the top. For me, the gun comes pretty complete, right out of the box. Looking at the stippling or the texturing on the grip, I've heard some people say that they're not really impressed with it. I don't know what they're talking about. This is very, very good texturing on this grip. It's kind of a cross between, let's say like an X Carry or an X Compact series and an M&P 2.0. It doesn't have that aggressiveness of the 2.0 series, but it definitely has more aggressiveness than the 320 X Carry series or the X series in general. So you're getting a nice combination because it's not going to chew you up when you're wearing the gun. And at the same time, you absolutely get a good bite on that gun. I mean, I can't understand how anybody would say this just doesn't have enough texturing for them. And, everybody's different. I get it. But this gun has enough texturing, in my opinion. You'll also notice that the trigger guard has an undercut right here and a little slight undercut there for your support hand. I've never had a gun that's been customized with an undercut, at least not a Glock. And one of the things that I have to say is kind of interesting is a lot of people talk about that Glock Knuckle. And let me tell you, that thing is true. Glock has a slight undercut here, but when you look at the two guns, I mean, it's just ridiculous. You can see it's extended forward here, then you have a slight one here. And I'm going to tell you right now that as soon as you put this gun in your hands, some might say this is a Glock clone. Some might say it's nothing more than a fancy Gucci Glock. But I would tell you that this thing feels great. It is just a wonderful, ergonomically correct pistol. This is the way the Glock should feel out of the box. There is no doubt in my mind. If Glock would do something like this, they wouldn't sell millions. They're going to sell billions of these because people are going to love them. And ultimately, this thing is the complete package. Now, just kind of, taking the slide down. Again, you got to pull the trigger. You don't have to pull the trigger. I did that time. But one of the things that you're going to notice is all the internals are very Glockish. Again, this is basically a Gen 3 internal in regards to the parts. So that's good. So you have a lot of aftermarket if you choose to do that. Again, everything else feels really good. The polymer is solid. It's a nice looking FDE, so you don't have to worry about that. Inside the slide, you have your single recoil spring. It is captured, and it's a stainless steel guide rod, which is nice. And of course, you get your little fancy spiraled barrel. I mean, that's pretty cool. Again, it looks really good. It's a nice looking barrel, and they did a nice job on the coating. We'll see how it lasts. I know some people have been saying that the coating kind of wears off pretty quickly. We'll see. I'm going to throw a couple hundred rounds through this gun, and we're going to find out what it can do. And hopefully it'll hold up. I think it will because everything, like I said, just looks really, really nice inside. You don't see any real tooling or machining marks. It's just a solid, well-built piece of equipment. I mean, this thing is just rock solid. So I'll put all that stuff together. If I can get it in there. There we go. So, I mean, overall, what are the initial impressions? Well, I don't think it's going to take much for you to realize when I say this, but this gun is, in my opinion, a home run. I think Shadow Systems did a lot of good stuff with this gun. I mean, I've never owned one of these before. I've never actually owned one of these types of expensive pistols that are kind of Glockish. But when I saw this, I said, boy, this is a pretty interesting handgun. And the thing that I liked the best was the fact that you have this mounting option. Again, I'm not a big red dot guy, but to have the ability to have something where you don't need this plate to attach to that thing and this thing and everything else, and then you've got to have 4 different screws hooked up into your slide. And, you know, to me, this was just a great, great, great product. And so right now, I'm going to give this thing a thumbs up because I think it's pretty sweet. I mean, even the way they did everything on the actual grip, just this little cutout right here, just brilliant. So you don't need a gas pedal because like you can see right there, you just throw your thumb on there and your support. And even though it's not protruding a lot, again, you're just getting a nice solid pad to throw your support thumb on. You know, it's cut in there a little bit. It's got the same texturing in there. I mean, it just seems to be the perfect handgun. And I hate to say that because there's really nothing perfect. And yes, this thing does have a couple of things I don't like. You know, the trigger isn't 100% perfect, which what is, but it could have been better. I think it could definitely be a little bit better, but we'll see what break-in time does to it. And the one thing that kind of got me a little bit was when I was attaching this, I was looking in the bag for an Allen wrench, and sure enough, it doesn't come with an Allen wrench. So, I mean, that's kind of petty, but at the same time, come on, guys, put an Allen wrench in the damn bag. Make us happy. But overall, guys, I recommend this highly. That's the initial impression. Can't wait to take this out to the range and shoot it and then give you an after impression and go from there. But, I mean, whew, I am impressed, and I'm very happy. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about, and this video is long, and I apologize, are holsters. So I took out a couple of my Glock 19 holsters. I have one here from Vetter Holsters. Not really happy with the way this fits. You're getting a lot of movement in there. So it's not an exact fit. I mean, does that interfere with your trigger? Is it going to make your gun go off? Definitely not. But it's kind of loose. I mean, who wants that, you know? Then I tried this one, which isn't going to fit right now because of the optic on there, because it's not cut for one. But what I did notice, even with the black arch holsters, is they actually fit a little bit snugger. There is just a slight movement up, but it actually fits pretty well. It actually fits a little bit better than the Vetter holster. Maybe I can mold it or something, or heat it up and then try to remold it, or maybe just tighten down the retaining screws or the retention screws, and maybe that'll change a little bit. But overall, the one that I found worked the best was the black arch holster. That's in case you guys are looking for holsters that you want some options on. But overall, guys, great gun. I'm super excited. Can't wait to shoot this thing. I am super impressed. And that's it. I mean, it's just really impressive to me. I didn't think I was going to like this gun that much. Now, do I think it's a Glock killer? I'll be honest with you guys. I think this is probably the one gun right now for me, even though it's kind of a semi-clone-ish of a Glock. I think it's really worth it. And I think it's a lot better than my Glock 19, no doubt. And at some point, we'll do a comparison between the both. And then you guys can make up your own mind. The other thing that I noticed too, really quick, is the fact that it's not ambidextrous with controls. The only thing is the takedown. You can switch this over, but there is no slide release, slide lock on this side, which, again, maybe a little negative there for left-handed shooters. Overall, great gun. Check them out. Shadow Systems MR920. I love it. Can't wait to shoot it. And then hopefully the after report will be even better. So leave those comments down below. Tell me what you think about the gun. And I'd love to hear those comments or see those comments. And I hope you guys have a great night. Stay safe. And as always, everyone, freedom is never free.